XM and Sirius both out with earnings today, but what happened to the proposed deal between the two satellite radio companies? It sailed through the U.S. Department of Justice review, but it has not been approved by the FCC. So what's the holdup? Is this a case of government gone wild, or is the FCC doing the right thing and taking its sweet old time? Joining us now for Street Fight, Frank Aquila, M&A partner with Sullivan and Cromwell, and Roger Aguinaldo, CEO and publisher of the M&A Advisor newsletter. All right, Frank, what's holding this up? Is this the FCC doing the right thing, or are they just being a little bit of a bloviating bureaucracy?
I don't want to use the word bloviating when it comes to the FCC, but what I would say is they clearly are not, moving this deal along. And I have to suspect that it's a lot of political pressure, particularly from all the terrestrial radio stations around the country, which congressmen really rely on when they run for re-election. A lot of political pressure here, and it's stopping this deal.
That's an interesting. I hadn't heard that point before, that the whole advertising and election year plays into this.
Right, well, that's pretty interesting. But the FCC, at the end of the day, they should not let this merger happen. This is not a decision about whether the businesses should get together. This is a decision about whether the two licenses should be held under one entity. And the FCC, in their 1997 order, specifically said not one entity can control both of these licenses. And XM and Sirius are asking them to go against that order and put these licenses together, and FCC should not allow that to happen.
Is there any way to do it without putting the licenses together?
To get XM, yeah, well, then have another license out there. I think what's happening is XM and Sirius basically went to the Department of Justice. The reason why the FCC took so long, they didn't want to have to reverse its order. They wanted to see what the Department of Justice would do. Once the Department of Justice made a ruling and said, okay, you guys can get together, then now it's in the FCC's court to decide whether these licenses should get together. Now, the Department of Justice has a purview of whether something's competitive or not competitive. And I think in the end, the Department of Justice made the wrong decision, but now it's in the FCC's court.
Okay, DOJ says this is competitive or not competitive.
Correct.
What's the FCC's decision? Well, what are they deciding?
Well, the DOJ, XM and Sirius made the argument to the Department of Justice. They said that the market for satellite radio is not just satellite radio. It's all radio.
Understood. So what's the FCC reviewing?
Well, the FCC should not review the business side of it. The FCC is in the business of granting licenses. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. The FCC should not look at the business model, whether the business model is working or not working. That's really not its purview.
So in your opinion, this is a straight yes or no. Do we combine these licenses or not? That's the FCC's.
And frankly, they should have done that a year ago when this originally came out.
All right, Frank, here's my question, though. Why do we have multiple reviews then? If this is just a check-the-box review, why wasn't it first?
This is not Europe, after all.
No, this is not a check-the-box review. The FCC certainly has to look at the merits, but it's not a seriatim review. They've been reviewing it this entire time. And the reality is that technology has changed dramatically, not just since the statute was enacted 10, 12 years ago, but since this deal's been announced. And the Department of Justice is supposed to look at the competitive aspects. The only complaint you could have about this deal is that it's anti-competitive, and the U.S. Department of Justice, after a year's review, said it is pro-competitive. So the FCC, as I say, I think is bending to political pressure and slowing this deal down.
So what is the bottom line political pressure? Because, our lovely producer, we like to bring him up when we can, Sandy Canold, notes there have been more hearings about this merger than there have been about the war in Iraq. It is hard to argue on a level of relative importance that a merger between two small radio companies is as important.
Because if you're running for Congress in whatever district, and you get phone calls from every radio station in your district saying, we think this is a bad thing. No one, the consumers aren't complaining about this deal. And the reality is, if you don't let them have both licenses, you don't get those synergies, and you're never going to have a profit-making alternative to terrestrial radio. And that's why they want to stop this deal.
No, you can have a profit-making alternative to terrestrial radio. You don't necessarily have to combine these two entities. Someone else can purchase with more wherewithal, financial wherewithal. I mean, Microsoft buy XM and Sirius to go to Apple. I mean, why not? You know, and XM on every Xbox and a Sirius on every iPod. I mean, you can basically do this.
You could buy one. You can make, you know, an Exxon could buy another, but they're not interested in getting into a very loss-producing business. They, you know, to make this a profitable business, you need to combine the two companies. The Department of Justice spent a year looking at the antitrust aspects of this. They cleared it, and the FCC at this point, I believe, is just dragging its feet for whatever reason, whether it's political or otherwise.
I've never seen how you can combine a money-losing company with another money-losing company and say you're going to have synergies. What's going to happen, they're going to combine these companies together, they're going to go through the bankruptcy courts, then one entity is going to have control of this license, and that's a dangerous thing.
That will be the last word, because we're out of time.
It's interesting. You know, people get fired up about this.
Yeah.
More hearings than Iraq.
Sounds to me, I agree with Roger. Sounds to me like...
Well, then I'll agree with Frank.
Sounds to me like you're going to have two drunks holding each other up. But anyway, coming up, stocks on the move, including Blockbuster.
Plus Morningstar's Bridget Hughes helping you minimize your risk by looking long-term, Mark. Long term. 15 years. The length of the contract Mark and I are signing for Squawk on the Street. We'll be right back.